Yes, today I'm going to talk about Tahitian Noni Original. We also call it, I may refer to it sometimes as Tahitian Noni Juice. That's one of the common names that we call it, but it's the same product made from the noni fruit from Tahiti in French Polynesia. So just to go right into this, I want to share with you some of the tradition of noni and its importance in the people of the Pacific Islands and the Polynesian area. There is an expert named Dr. Arthur Whistler. He is a botanist, and he spent his lifetime, many decades, studying how people of the Pacific Islands used plants and how they used them, especially for medicine and health. And he compiled several books. One of them is titled Polynesian Herbal Medicine, and I give this information to you out of this book, Polynesian Herbal Medicine, where he stated that noni was the most widely and commonly used medicinal plant in Polynesia. Now, this is what he wrote while he was serving with the United States National Tropical Botanical Garden and as an associate professor at the University of Hawaii. So it had a very central role. And these people, it was important to them as they migrated from island to island, they would take the noni fruit with them. They had very limited space on their canoes as they would voyage from one island to another. And as they crossed the Pacific, going from the Western Pacific Islands to colonizing the Eastern Pacific, where French Polynesia is, they would make sure they had room on their canoes for noni, and they would take the best noni with them as they went from island to island. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later, and what the result of that is as far as the quality of noni fruit in Tahiti is. Also, I mentioned that it was the most important and widely used Polynesian medicinal plant, but in the Pacific Islands, noni was believed to be helpful for at least 67 health conditions. So that's quite a number. And this is this is even traditional, meaning old time, long time ago, a century or more ago, as well as even among the current people who live there. There's still a widely recognized broad range of health benefits that noni can provide to people. And I use this source here as a medical journal called the Pacific Health Dialogue that's published in Fiji, and it covers the whole Polynesian island area, and medical researchers and scientists get to publish in this, and they talked about these 67 health conditions. So again, a wide range of benefits that was known to help with. Now, more recently in our research, in the last, let's see, I've been doing this, I'm going on 27 years researching noni, and we have identified more than 100 potential health benefits or biological activities from noni fruit in our research. And we've actually published quite a bit of in scientific journals, much of this, but we also have quite a bit that we haven't disclosed yet publicly. It's just an issue of time. We're very busy. We've been doing a lot of work, and you can imagine more than 100 potential benefits. So very, very unique fruit with a lot of potential, and the way it impacts the body, I will talk a little bit about that later, but it actually can help some very fundamental systems of the body that result in this wide range of benefits. Also, I want you to understand that we've sold more than 170 million bottles of noni juice worldwide since 1996. This number, of course, I put more than because I haven't done the last tally of how many bottles we've actually sold, but it's well over 170 million bottles. And this is across many nations across the globe. And so there's been a lot of experience that people have using Tahitian Noni Juice, Tahitian Noni Original. And this 2.5 decades of use with lots of people consuming this has demonstrated its value, its benefits, as well as its safety. This is a very, very safe product to use. And I'll speak a little more about that as we go along. I shared some of the traditional uses of noni fruit in the Pacific Islands and how people used it for a broad range of things. I want to share with you some more current research done in Europe and in the United States. So first in Europe, there was a survey, health benefits survey, that was conducted by professor at the University Medical School in Hamburg, Germany. And this was of the European consumers of noni, of Tahitian Noni Original. And this involved 1,712 people, and he cataloged the health benefits that they had received from drinking Tahitian Noni Juice. And I share with you here the top 7 from that study. There was a large percentage of people that felt that it provided more energy to them. They felt like they had more energy. I want you to understand that Tahitian Noni Juice does not contain any chemical stimulants. So this is just the natural phytonutrients in the noni fruit that were helping the body to have more energy, for them to feel better. So there was more energy. They had a better overall feeling. They just felt better. Their health was better. And you'll see this effect right here, this overall better feeling, in the next study I'll share with you as well. They had reduced peripheral pain, meaning the pain, that sometimes they had in the joints and so forth. And they felt like they had fewer infections. They slept better. They felt they had fewer stomach problems, and their digestion was improved. And they felt that they had fewer allergies and asthma. So these are some of the things that were the top benefits that were reported by people in Europe who were drinking Tahitian Noni Juice. This, of course, is published. Much of what I'll share with you is published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. By a peer review, it means that other scientists that are independent of us, that have nothing to do with the work, they get to critique the research and comment on it and see if it is good enough for publishing. And so that's what I mean when I say peer-reviewed scientific journals. This one was published earlier this year. It was a study we conducted in the United States, and this involved people from different regions of the United States. And there were 319 adults with untreated chronic health conditions that were enrolled in this study. And these are people that had not drank Tahitian Noni Original before. They didn't have any history with noni, so they were coming into this study new, what we call blind to the study, meaning they had no idea what it was that they were really drinking. They just knew that it was a juice that was going to be might potentially have some benefits, but they didn't know anything about Tahitian Noni Original, didn't have any marketing information presented to them, nothing like that. So this was a study going in to take these people and to see what their response would be to drinking Tahitian Noni Juice over a 90-day period. So we had them drink a half a cup every day. And we had them report back on their health status and several questions that were asked on their health at 30 days after drinking Tahitian Noni Juice, then 60 days afterwards, and then 90 days. So every month we would get feedback from them. And then we would provide statements so it was easier for them to report in their health. And we call those agreement statements. So for instance, you see the top response here. When we asked people, do you feel better in general than before? You see that 83% of the people agreed that, yes, I feel better when I'm drinking Tahitian Noni Juice. And then you'll see these other high percentage responses that most of these reached these high percent values by 30 days, within 1 month of drinking it. And then we saw those who, the smaller number who didn't feel that change yet, we saw that number increase by day 60 and day 90. So by 3 months, we had quite a high percentage. But they felt better than before when using this. They felt better in general. They felt healthier than before. So we asked questions in different ways to see if we could validate their responses. So more than 80% of these people. So let's say you had 100 people that you gave Tahitian Noni Juice to. 80 of those people would say, yes, I feel definitely better than I did before. My health is better. A number of them said that they felt like they could bounce back or recover more easily after exercising when drinking Tahitian Noni juice. Now, of course, this response was most significant in a middle-aged group of people. Had very, very high response rates there as well. They had to have people who were, of course, exercising to respond to this one. 75% said they felt like they had more energy. Remember that European survey? We saw the same thing there, where they were saying they had more energy and they felt better. So again, two top responses we're seeing in the United States and in Europe as well. And incidentally, this also fits with the traditional benefits that were claimed for in Polynesia, that people use this for more energy. In fact, they would use this when they would travel from island to island. They made sure they had some noni with them so they could keep their stamina, physical stamina up as they sailed from island to island. And so that's the next one there. When I exercise, I feel like I have more stamina, 75% felt a benefit. And then they felt like they woke up ready to start their day. So they had a good night's rest. They were sleeping better, 70%. So you see these high percentages, such as less pain, feel stronger, few headaches, sleeping better at night. So again, a consistent set of positive benefits that were experienced among people from different regions around the world. And so very high and broad range of benefits of experience, people drinking Tahitian Noni juice. So one thing I want to point out here is as we're more concerned these days as we should about our immune system, I want to show that here we have our bottle of Tahitian Noni Original that we sell in China actually has an approval. So there's this little symbol. You'll see this blue symbol just to the left of the bottle there. It's actually on the label. And this is a symbol that allows us to make the claim that's approved by the government that Tahitian Noni is good for improving immune system function. And I show the certificate for it there for those of you who can read the Chinese characters. But this involved testing of Tahitian Noni juice by government-approved laboratories using the methods approved by the government to demonstrate that this really does improve immune system function for people. So that is a major benefit in why people feel they're better, their health is better in general, is that this is an immune system supporting product, and it can improve immune system function, especially for those who might have immune systems that are not functioning as well as they should. So that involved a lot of time, expense, and working with government officials, but we have that claim approved for Tahitian Noni Original. I'm speaking about Tahitian Noni Original now, but we have the same claim approved for Tahitian Max in China as well, because it contains the noni fruit as well. So that involved also safety testing as well. Now, we've done quite a number of clinical trials, human clinical trials, and I show a list here of some of them, not all of them. That's why number 14 says "and more." But just to give you an idea, a sense of the broad range of the studies we've done. I'll speak about some of these today. We had antioxidant studies and DNA protection studies in smokers. We did a safety clinical trial. And in Europe, we have approval as a safe novel food. Tahitian Noni Original is recognized as a safe food in Europe. We had done a lot of safety testing there, including a human clinical trial where people were drinking 3/4 of a bottle per day. And we measured everything you can measure on these people to check their health. Now, there are heart health benefits, joint health benefits you'll see here, endurance and energy in athletes. I mentioned immune system. There's even work done with postmenopausal women and bone density and so forth, osteoarthritis, things like this. A lot of studies and many more that I'm not listing here. But let's talk about a few of these. So I'm going to talk first about one study done at the University of Illinois at Chicago in the United States at the College of Medicine at Rockford, Illinois, and in association with the Swedish American Hospital in the state of Illinois in the United States. So this involved a university and a hospital, and doctors there and researchers at the university. And then what they did is what we call an open label 3-month trial. We had 82 osteoarthritis patients, and these people were enrolled and then given Tahitian Noni Juice and instructed to drink 90 milliliters per day. And they saw significant improvements over this time period of the study, where they had limited, this was again of the hip and knee, and we saw a decrease in pain and improvements in mobility. And of course, with that improvement in mobility there and less pain, many quality of life factors improved, such as their mood, that we saw benefit in their mental health there, meaning they felt like they were less depressed, they had more energy, they could do more, their quality of life just improved. Also, we conducted laboratory tests, blood tests, to make sure that everything was functioning properly in the body, that the Tahitian Noni Juice was safe. Another safety part of the study we added, and showed a very, very large margin of safety when they were drinking Tahitian Noni Juice for these 3 months. Also at the University of Illinois College of Medicine, we did an antioxidant study in heavy smokers. Now, by heavy smoker, I mean these are people who smoke 20 or more cigarettes per day. So quite a bit of cigarette smoke inhalation going on by these people. It involved 285 people. This was a double-blind, placebo-controlled 1-month trial, so a very, very stringent, very strict type of study. It's what we often call the gold standard of clinical trial research. And we checked their blood levels of free radicals before they started the study, and then 1 month after drinking Tahitian Noni Juice, while they continued to smoke. And we saw that drinking as little as 30 milliliters per day lowered free radical levels significantly, whereas the fruit juice placebo we used, which had healthy fruits in there, but there was not noni in there, that did not have any effect because the cigarette smoke was too strong for common fruits. But noni is not a common fruit. Noni is a special fruit, and it in fact was able to lower the free radical levels in the blood of these heavy smokers. Also in smokers at the same university, we had another study with 203 people, again, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial. What we did here is we actually drew blood, isolated the white blood cells. Those are cells of the immune system, the white blood cells are. And we isolated the DNA and measured the amount of DNA damage that was occurring in these people from the cigarette smoke. Then we had them drink Tahitian Noni Juice or the placebo for 1 month while they continued to smoke. These people were voluntarily smoking that we enrolled in the study. And then we drew blood after 1 month and then measured the DNA damage again. And we saw that the DNA damage was reduced by about half, cut in half, while with Tahitian Noni Juice. Again, the placebo had no effect because the cigarette smoke is too damaging to their body. But the noni was very effective in protecting the DNA by reducing that by a half, the amount of DNA damage that was occurring. Again, while they continued to smoke. Also, we did another one with 132 people, again, smokers. So we did quite a bit of research with smokers because we wanted to see if Tahitian Noni Juice could really deliver powerful health benefits to our bodies under conditions that are known to cause a lot of damage. And cigarette smoking is one of those things that causes a lot of damage. Now, if you're not a smoker, how does this apply to you? Well, if you live anywhere in a city, there's pollution. And pollution is similar in many respects to cigarette smoke. So if Tahitian Noni Juice can protect you against cigarette smoke, imagine how well it can protect you against the effects of pollution, whether outside or indoor, or any other thing that you might be exposed to. So this was a series of human clinical trials to tell us how really good Tahitian Noni Juice is, and we found that it is very, very good. In this study here, we looked at people who had elevated cholesterol and triglycerides and something called C-reactive protein in their blood. The C-reactive protein is a marker for inflammation throughout the whole body. So again, we saw that when these smokers, because the cigarette smoke was causing damage and elevating their cholesterol and causing the inflammation throughout the body, we saw that after 1 month of drinking Tahitian Noni juice, it lowered the triglycerides and the cholesterol and the C-reactive protein in these smokers. We also saw that something called HDL, which is a good cholesterol that's good for the heart, that actually went up. So whatever damage the cigarette smoke was causing and causing these values of cholesterol and triglyceride to be abnormal, Tahitian Noni juice was helping to protect the body against those negative effects. So that study I just mentioned 2 slides ago about the DNA damage was from the direct chemical attack by this chemicals in the cigarette smoke against the DNA. We did another study to see what affects the downstream, meaning the chain reaction that could happen from the free radicals from the cigarette smoke, and what that could do to the DNA. And so we're looking at 2 types of DNA damage, and this one is what is a more indirect and more of a long-term type of DNA damage. It's what we call lipid peroxidation or oxidative stress-related DNA damage. I apologize to the interpreters for using that technical term, but this one involved 245 people. Same design as before, people drinking Tahitian Noni juice for 1 month or the placebo. We compare the results afterwards. We saw that, again, Tahitian Noni juice significantly reduced the amount of DNA damage that happened in these smokers that was due to the oxidative stress from the cigarette smoke. So we have quite a bit of information here to show, even just with these studies alone, a lot of reasons why people should drink Tahitian Noni juice. Just from these studies alone, there is plenty here to give anybody good reason to drink Tahitian Noni, because it helps protect the body, and we're all exposed to all of these chemicals and compounds in the air in everyday life. Now, from these studies, we learned something, that Noni was unique. It was different than other fruit juices, even different than other fruits that are considered healthy. And we found that iridoids are a group of phytonutrients in Noni that are not found in many other fruits. They're not common in other fruits. So I want to explain briefly what phytonutrients are. So in fruits, you have 5 main things. You have water. That's why you can make a juice from fruits. There's carbohydrates. Many people think of those as the sugar that makes fruit sweet. Noni does not have a lot of sugar, by the way. There are vitamins in there. Many people are familiar with vitamin C. There's minerals such as potassium in fruits. And then there's other things that are good for the health, but are not vitamins. Those things are called phytonutrients. Iridoids are phytonutrients, and they are not commonly found in fruits. And Noni is a great source of that, and Tahitian Noni is a great source of that. Here's an example I'll show you. Noni contains iridoids. So we did these analyses of different fruits, and we could have many more comparisons, but I'll just show you some examples here. You find iridoids in Noni, but you cannot find it in grapes. You cannot find it in acai or mangosteen or pear or apple, orange juice, kupuasu, or these other fruits here that many people are interested in. You find them in Noni. And so this is why in the smoker studies, the Tahitian Noni original was able to protect the DNA of people who were smoking cigarettes, whereas these other fruits could not. Because the iridoids have unique, powerful health benefits. I mentioned before how people, the Polynesian people, would sail on their canoes and take noni fruits and noni trees and noni fruits with them from island to island. Well, over time, this process led them to select the best noni fruits to take with them And by the time they reached Tahiti, which is way in the Eastern Pacific, as they sailed towards the end of their colonizing journeys, they had actually brought the best noni varieties with them and planted them in French Polynesia. So here's an example. We published this in 2011 in a scientific journal called Phytochemical Analysis. And we show the results here for the two major iridoids in noni fruit. And then we have other samples of noni from different places around the world that we've analyzed. And the ones from Tahiti had the highest amounts of iridoids. So again, why Tahitian noni? Why should we, there's noni growing in some other places, but the reason why we are interested in Tahitian noni is because it contains the highest amount of iridoids. And this seems to be selected by people over many generations, over many hundreds of years, as the best noni, as they went from island to island and took the best with them to colonize a new island. So let me go back here. So real quick, there was a study we did on in Japan involving almost 4,000 people. You see 3,913 people. And we measured something called advanced glycation end products in their body. And those are glycotoxins. So when you eat sugar, this is what the sugar becomes that's not used right away. It becomes advanced glycation end products and they damage the body. But we measured that, and we also interviewed them to determine how much daily iridoid ingestion they received. And so, of course, that was coming primarily from noni. So we're looking at noni consumers, and then also people who did not drink noni juice. And we found that the more people consumed iridoids per day, or more noni you got per day, the lower the advanced glycation end product levels were in the body. So again, another protective effect. So this is a second major reason why anybody should be interested in drinking Tahitian noni juice, even not thinking about all the many other health benefits. So this and the protection of the DNA can have a very significant impact on your health long term. Remember, these glycotoxins, they damage the body as we get older. It contributes to the aging process. And drinking noni and getting more iridoids into your body helps slow this process down and reduce these advanced glycation end product levels. Now, we've been at this a long time doing noni, and I just want to share here with you that we have, of the people involved in the research and of noni, Tahitian noni, and the quality control of Tahitian noni, have at least 232 years of combined experience working with noni. And I show here some of the timelines of people when they started working with the company and started doing work with noni. Even from the very beginning, we have Nadi Manoy. I talked to him just a couple of days ago. He's been here since the very beginning, processing noni fruit, harvesting noni fruit, working with the harvesters. And Te Amo brothers, and these guys are in Tahiti, and they see this fruit every day. They know the fruit, saying their ancestors know the fruit, and they process that for that. And they harvest, they are in charge of making sure that the fruit is of high quality, it's handled in the right way. And they've been doing that for 27 years. And then, of course, I've been involved a long time, and we have a group in Japan that's been doing research with them and others. So a very, very long time, a lot of experience with noni, and they're still working here. Now, each batch of Tahitian noni juice is tested for many things. We look for microbial contaminants, toxic chemical contaminants. We do physiochemical testing. We taste it, organoleptic. We taste it, we smell it, we make sure everything is it fits in the way it should taste, the way it should taste, looks the way it should look. It doesn't have any contaminants in there. And then we do phytonutrient testing. We test each batch for iridoids. because we did those clinical trials and we showed that iridoids were important. So we want to make sure each batch of Tahitian Noni Juice has the right iridoid amount, deliver those benefits. So here's some just examples of the last 1,847 batches of Tahitian Noni Juice, Tahitian Noni Original. There were no harmful bacteria, no toxic metals, no other chemical contaminants that were present and causing problems. We have good quality control. So again, this is almost 2,000 batches of Tahitian Noni Juice. And these are the most recent ones that we produced. Here's something we measure. It's called it's BRIX, B-R-I-X. It's a measurement of total dissolved solids from the fruit. So when we blend them, the fruits, we measure this to make sure that the right amounts are there. So we actually weigh everything out and then blend them together and then bottle it. But then we take bottles afterwards to make sure that everything, as a second check, to make sure everything was correct. Again, here's the 1,847 batches, and just to show you, selected throughout the last couple decades here, to show how consistent this is from batch to batch. Many batches of Tahitian Noni Juice here produced and made the same the whole time. Here's the last 1,000 batches of Tahitian Noni Juice and the iridoid content. And you see that, again, very consistent amounts. This is a natural product, so it's not going to, there'd be ever so slight variations, but very consistent. So we make sure that it meets minimum amounts of iridoids. Sometimes you might get a bottle that has more iridoids than a little bit more than was found in the bottles we used in the clinical trials, and that's good for you, but you're not going to get bottles that have less. You're going to make sure, we make sure that they have the minimum amount of iridoids that should be in there to provide the health benefits that you're expecting and that we have seen in the human clinical trials. So very consistent over time, testing these all the time in our laboratory. Here's our lab. Here, I think I have two slides here at the same pictures. Yeah. And we have some of the instruments I'm just showing you here in our new laboratory. This is actually in a medical office area in Utah here in the United States. The one instrument up in the upper left corner you see is something called a high performance liquid chromatography system. That's what we use for the iridoids. And we see some of our staff, research and development staff, in the lower left corner there with the two new owners of the company, John and Darren. And again, many of these people that you see in this photo here have been doing this for a long time, working with Noni. And there are other people, again, I mentioned in Japan that we have that have been also working for a long time, and in Tahiti. I mentioned the European Union approval after much safety testing and working with all the different countries in Europe, and them getting to review their scientists reviewing our data and doing the human clinical trial. And finally, the European Commission back in 2003 issued this commission decision which approved Noni Juice as a safe, novel, which means new, food in Europe and within the European Union nations. The reason I use the term novel, meaning new, is that Noni doesn't grow in Europe. It grows in tropical areas, and there's not many tropical areas in Europe, as you know. Kind of cold in Europe most of it in the winter. So, but that's been approved back in, that was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, this was approved as a safe food, and it's been consumed as a safe, healthy food that does all these many benefits in Europe for more than 20 years. And it's been consumed, for more than 20, about 27 plus years around the world total. And now that's the Tahitian Noni Juice. Remember, Noni fruit has been used for thousands of years in the islands of Polynesia by those people, and they have known for a very long time how good Tahitian Noni is. So there's some questions. How much should somebody drink? Those are questions that are often asked. From the studies I showed you, we know that you should drink at least 1 serving per day. That's 30 milliliters. We also learned, such as I showed you in the study done in Japan with the 3,913 people, that drinking more is associated with better health outcomes. And that 1/2 a cup of Tahitian Noni per day was beneficial for most people in that 90-day study I showed you at the beginning of the people in the United States that had chronic health conditions. That amount was effective for them. So you get to make some decisions on how much you wish to take. And I provide some guidelines there, drinking at least 1 serving minimum, and you may drink more. In fact, larger amounts are safe. And I showed you that European Union approval. There was no restrictions or limitations on how much somebody could drink in that study. No restrictions on special groups either. It was approved as a food without restrictions in multiple nations throughout the world. But if a person has dietary restrictions, discuss the nutritional information displayed on the label with a healthcare professional and see how much you should work into your diet. But for most people, you don't need to worry about that. You can drink as much as you feel you should drink. Personally, I drink at least 1/2 cup a day. But I do know that drinking a little less can provide some benefits. Drinking more provide additional benefits. So you can decide. But remember, the one study I showed you with people with osteoarthritis, 90 milliliters per day. That's 3 servings per day. So you have a range to work with. So those are some things to consider when you're sharing it and using it yourself. Wide range of benefits, has powerful iridoids that are very unique to noni. Tahitian noni is the premier source, and drink at least a serving a day, and you can drink much more if you feel that it will help you. And we know from studies that it can be helpful to you.
So thank you very much.
Bye-bye.